The BCN Divine Triangle. Black Christian nationalism seeks to change society in order to accomplish the liberation of Black people, and realizes that we, as a people, are engaged in a struggle for power and for our very survival. We utilize the BCN Divine Triangle as a godly symbol to access and connect with the mystical powers that was in our ancestors and the cosmic energy and creative intelligence of the universe. We believe in the raging desire for freedom, born of the Holy Spirit. We believe in the healing powers of the revolutionary BCN group process, which begins the liberation of Black people by erasing 400 years of behavior modification. We believe in the transforming power of positive righteousness, where we as a people take a stand for righteousness over evil. We pledge to let the power of the Divine Triangle work its wonders in us. We pledge to take the power of the Divine Triangle to African people across the world. May God and the Black nation be our witness.
Thank y'all for coming out in this rain on this very important Bible class. Let me first thank those who have preceded me. The great work that has been presented through this institution of the Black Christian Nationalist Bible class. Elder Takuma always brings it strong for us. Brother Konada, Brother Shingai, our shrine administrator, Sister Shikesha. We even had Brother Zikomo come in. Right?
Well,
very powerful, very powerful. And more importantly, is that it is a renewal of the Bible class series. For a while, we did not have Bible class.
That's right.
well,
So I'm so glad that these brothers and sisters were a part of the effort to reestablish such an important institution for us.
amen,
And they
amen.
have surely laid the groundwork for what I will be talking about today. Going through the Old Testament and helping us to understand the BCN analysis of the Bible. And the last few sessions that Konada did on the Dead Sea Scrolls was very insightful.
Yes,
And very clear in terms of where we stand as a Black Christian nationalist community.
That's right. Well,
Today we want to enter into some discussion on the New Testament. And this is definitely a point of transition from the teachings of the Old Testament to the New Testament. I guess you would first have to ask the question, why do we need a New Testament? I've always said that we cannot understand the Bible without understanding the history that produced the Bible.
That's right.
So today's session is going to be like an introduction to the New Testament. I want to give you a clearer perspective on what was going on in the biblical world at the time period that produced the New Testament. There's some very pivotal figures that we want to talk about as it relates to the bringing into being of this New Testament. We want to call people out, we want to call their names out, we want to talk about the role that they played in the New Testament. I tried to put this together and anticipate questions that you might have as it relates to the New Testament, especially questions that my good brother Shingai would bring before us. And so I want to just jump right. I put together a PowerPoint presentation.
All right.
We definitely are in a part in dealing with the reality of communicating our messages before black people by using modern technology and the media that's now available to us that was not in the past. And as we always say, that a picture is worth what? 1,000 words. So we're trying to go back over 2,000 years to kind of get a grip on what was happening at the time that the Bible was put together. So I found that a very good tool is the PowerPoint presentation. First of all, I want to say that we're in a knowledge age, the age of information and technology.
That's right.
And so we have to use this informational age as a vehicle to get our message out to the masses.
That's right.
You've heard it said that Black Christian nationalism is the best kept secret in America. So we have to actively work to make sure that our message is getting out, and we have to use technology to help us to be able to do so.
That's right.
Now there are some of us, who come from the old school, who not yet got into technology. We think that we can continue to move forward without technology. I'm here to tell you that everybody needs a laptop.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a Black Christian nationalist, you need a laptop.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have one, you need to start working on getting one. The prices is coming down.
Oh, yeah.
But it connects us to international communication. Things that we could not do, now we can communicate with black people all over the world.
That's right.
By using our laptops and the internet. And so simple software programs like PowerPoint, it's not that difficult. They're very user-friendly. And so a little bit of research will get you pictures that you didn't think was available to you. Pinterest is out there, and Google Images is out there. All you gotta do is type in what you're looking for, and you get those. Integrate those images into our presentations to give our brothers and sisters a better view of what we're talking about. Now we have the content down. We can bring it strong. It's how we bring it so that it impacts the masses of our people in a way that we're replacing these negative white images of the Bible with positive black images of the Bible.
All right.
So that's something that we're constantly working on and perfecting. You may be aware that nationally, internationally, we're upgrading our web presence. And so we'll be able to share more images and content with the masses of black people. I just wanted to get that out there to let you know that if you have not gotten it, don't think that you can get through the rest of your life without it. If it takes you a month or 6 months or even a year, if you plan to live longer than a year, start working on getting your technology together. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this PowerPoint on you first, and then we'll see what we have time left to talk about. This whole concept of the Bible itself starts out as a Greek word, the Bible. And the accumulation of content that went into the Bible does not come anywhere out of a white community. It does not come out of the Greek community. It does not come out of Rome. It comes out of the Nile Valley. These concepts have already been there, and they take what you have already produced and then create a Bible, which means that it is called a little book. Now, that means that Greeks and Romans are deciding what's going to go in the Bible and what's not going to go in the Bible. What they're going to take from you that they can use, and then what they don't want to use. But this will take us all the way back to the Old Testament writings that's dated at least 1600 BC down to 400 BC. The Old Testament is already there. This is a time that predates ancient Greek and predates ancient Rome as well. So we know that the foundation is among black people. This is a very powerful book for those of you who want to do additional research on that matter, the Africans who wrote the Bible. And this is by a brother who is a linguist, and he has done a lot of good historical work. But what we call the Old Testament or the Torah is another reference from Dr. Ben Jakahanan, Yosef Ben Jakahanan, and I'm sure you're familiar with that because he is the last two chapters in black Christian nationalism.
Well,
It's
amen.
broken by this blood. So
Amen.
we're not coming from a foreign doctrine. This is in black Christian nationalism.
Amen.
And I'm sure every black Christian nationalist have the book.
That's right.
Black Christian Nationalism.
That's right.
All right. We're going to be checking y'all out sometime. We're going to have to bring y'all books to the class so we
yeah.
can see. Because shame on you if you don't now.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so we're moving from Old Testament books and into a New Testament transition. And if you just begin to look at the names of the books in the Old Testament, you can begin to see some difference between the names of the books in the New Testament. It helps us to understand we're moving from one frame of reference to another frame of reference. So let us find out more about that. Now this is the Old Testament script. I always tell people, look up the script so you can see for yourself, because linguistics is a tool that we can use to make our points. Starting out with the Old Testament script coming out of the highlands of ancient Ethiopia, and then down to what is present-day Palestine, or the Levant, where we would be talking about the Phoenicians.
Right.
Now the Phoenicians is what the Greeks call the people who were there. This is referred to in the Bible as the ancient Canaanite community. This is the same script that they were using. If you look at both scripts, you can go to Google and Google them in. Old Hebrew script, we know that starts in Africa, the oldest script, you are the first people to write. And then we look at the Phoenician or Canaanite script, and one thing you should be able to notice very quickly as well. They are pretty much the same, or very, very similar. Okay, and these are the foundations from which the Greeks get their alphabet system from the Canaanites or the Phoenicians. They say that themselves. And also it's the same script that is related to what Jesus would have been speaking, and that's Aramaic. So those scripts point out very clearly that we're coming from an African foundation. And you can see the development from Aramaic to Phoenician and then on to the Greeks. This is what we gave to the Greeks. They made some minor changes in the script. But then this is passed down through the Latin, and it becomes modern Roman alphabet that you see right there. All of it having a foundation from African culture. Wow. Now, one thing that should be noticeable about is if you look at the modern Roman script as well as the Greek and the Latin script, is that there's one letter that's missing. That's very important to our understanding of the transition that we're going to be making from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and that's the letter what? J. Now, if in the scripts, these scripts are dated back to the time period that we're talking about, this is just a question in the mind that you must have. If there were no J, then how do we get Jesus, Joshua, Judah, and all those J names? Well, we're talking about revisionist history. We're talking about white folks in modern time looking back and rewriting history. That's right. And this is clear evidence, but we have much, much more. But the foundation comes out of the oldest religious practice of the Nile Valley, ancient Ethiopia and Aksum, who have the oldest history of spiritual writings and the teachings that are definitely associated with Christianity, Judaism, as well as Islam. You are the people of the book. That's right. You are the first people to write. It is documented throughout history. And what you passed down to everybody else gave them the ability to use your script, although they made alterations to it, but it all starts with African people. So we're very clear on that. Even the first images of the Black Messiah is images that are coming, that you will find that come out of Rome, and as well as the Greeks when they come into ancient Egypt, take over. The Greeks come in 332 BC, Rome follows them about 32 BC later. But even in the Roman catacombs, and you know the religion of Christianity was a underground religion. You could not practice it above ground. You had to hide, duck, and dodge from the Romans because it was illegal. Well, but when we go down into the catacombs of Rome, we'll find images of what the Messiah looked like, painted on the wall. And these are some of the oldest images that you will find right here. But of course, the Bible said that his skin was like brass burnt in an oven, right? That's right. So we know that it's not talking about white folks. Right. So this is the foundation that we are moving from, and much of the evidence that we see that these religious ideas of morality come from an African community, and then they're changed. So when we look at the time between the testaments, from the Old Testament writings starting in the BC time period, coming down to the age of the Greeks, and then the Romans. Now, the Greeks and the Romans had a basic way of conquest. Wherever people that they conquered, they would destroy as much of their history as possible. And book burning was just one part of the way that they did. So if they came and conquered you, they found your literature, they destroyed your literature, and they found something that they could use, of course they would take it and make whatever modifications that would fit their needs and desires. Some more information on that would be some good resources right here that you might want to do additional research. Do not only use the Bible. The Bible definitely, if it's correctly interpreted, is a history of black people. But there's other books that you can read that document the reality that these religions started among African people. So we're moving from ancient Egypt, you can see, to modern Rome. Okay? So people run around talking about the Pope. The Pope got everything that he has from you.
Well, amen.
Okay? The concept of the personalities, Moses and Jesus, black. The word Moses is an African word. You begin to do Nile Valley research, you find Tutmosis, Atmosis, all kind of Moses. You cannot find that word among European languages until they talk about Moses and then try to turn Moses from black to white.
That's right.
So this is a transition that's going on from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The oldest images look like this, and then in the hands of the Greek and Roman, this is what you're going to get.
Well, amen.
And then ultimately, here's the Pope with your black Madonna. That's a complete takeover right there. Okay? Starting here with the Romans, as Rome comes down around 32 BC, taking over from their cousins, the Greeks, and so they control the entire Mediterranean world. This is the world that you control. Coming out of the Nile Valley, you had the Canaanite culture and civilization. Ancient Egypt set its northern border at southern Turkey, the area that we would call Antioch in the Bible. Then you had Carthage on the to the western side, and even the original Greeks were black people. Then you had the Etruscans in Italy, who are the ones who are the first to civilize the Romans. So we got to know the history in order to understand what we're talking about in this major transition.
All right, brother.
So we're looking at a time period that's generally starting with the Augustus Caesars, and then moving on to Constantine, and later on Justinian. So for historians, for black Christian nationalists, we need to understand this timeline, because we're going to run into brothers and sisters who are of the Caucasoid persuasion of Christianity.
That's right.
And they think that we just trying to paint Jesus black. But when we know the history, we are armed. We put on the full armor of God, and you can go anywhere among any people and tell folks the truth because you know the history, right?
That's right. That's right.
Looking at the Roman world, the Rome was a military machine. Over 500 years of studying military conquest, and they used that to dominate the ancient world. And then all of the technology and resources that they would find, they would then bring that into Rome. So if you look at from the area of the Levant and North Africa, the overwhelming majority of the stuff is coming out of Africa going into Rome. Roman gold coins were minted from mines coming out of Africa. From the Fertile Crescent, food was brought out of Africa and the Fertile Crescent into Rome. So this was how things were happening in the Roman world at that time. So this whole idea of democracy and the Senate, the Rome got this from you, from the councils that existed in Africa. We always had, we call it the Council of the Elders. And you had somebody representing one particular community sitting on the Council of Elders so that the people would have some say-so in the final decisions that ultimately the king or pharaoh would make. You taught this to them. They were savages coming out of the caves of Europe, and you gave them the law. They took it and used it basically against us. For all black Christian nationalists, we have to have a timeline in our mind so that we understand what happened at what period of time, who started what came first and what came after. That's very important for us to be able to see the historical world. Every black Christian nationalist have to be a historian. How could you take on the awesome responsibility of liberating black people when you don't really know black people?
Well.
So it's very important that we're actively involved in an ongoing process of historical research, and this is very easy for us now because we're in an age of information.
That's right.
Okay, so this is the attitude of Rome. Coming out of Rome, no Christianity was there as they came into to Egypt. Egypt was the jewel in the ancient civilization in terms of resources, knowledge, and information, and it is one of the most conquered places on the face of the earth. Why is everybody trying to come into Egypt? Every time Rome conquered somebody, Rome would then set up a process of taxes. We're still paying taxes to white people today.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so they tolerated a lot of things among the people who they conquered, as long as you what? Paid your taxes.
That's right.
When you didn't pay your taxes, then they had problems with you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there were certain Roman holidays because they said, okay, well, we still see Caesar as God. You can practice whatever you want to practice. But when it comes time to celebrate the festivals as honoring Caesar as God, whoever the Caesar might be at that time, we expect you Jews to come out and give homage to Caesar.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was a major problem for the Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Jews said, no, we only pay homage to our God.
Well.
Nobody else's God. Now, y'all came in militarily, destroyed our culture and civilization, but we're going to try to hold on to what? Our concept of God.
That's right.
And so Rome said, okay, well, we got a problem then. And so as they dominated the area that we would call Jerusalem, they would put puppets in place in order to control the population. And it's just like sometimes you go into the store and you see black people in there, but it's just black folks working for who? Working for white folks. So this is a strategy white people have been using for a long time. Now here is a major figure, Herod. Now the Jewish population hated Herod. Herod claimed to be a Jew. History says that he was an Edomite. But he was a figurehead that the Romans could use to control the Jewish population.
Wow.
And Herod was he was a murderer. He was so paranoid that he would lose power. He killed his wife and killed some of his children in his own household. People say it's better to be a dog in Herod's house than to be his family. So you know he did that to the family. You know what he did to the rest of the Jewish population. Anybody that tried to raise up to with this messianic expectation of the Messiah, Herod would put them in check on behalf of the Romans.
That's right.
So he had sold out to the Romans, and he got rich, and he used the money that he took from the Africans, Jewish population, to build all kind of palaces for the Romans. So Rome liked Herod. And then he used some of his sons to control other parts of Israel or Judah and at the same time. Rebellions, however, was popping up in different places. So at one time in the area of Samaria, Rome said, okay, you can't handle these rebellions. So they took Herod's son out and put Pontius Pilate in. So that brings you around to the time of the Black Messiah. And this is the territory that we're talking about that was controlled by outside forces. So we don't have indigenous white folks in this area. We have Greeks and Romans coming from outside this area into this area, taking over control on their way where?
To Egypt.
On their way to Egypt.
That's right.
This was just a little pit stop on the way to Egypt. Egypt was the big place that they wanted to take over. So they were, by land, you had to come down this little strip right here. By sea, you use the Mediterranean. Now here's another major figure that we're going to talk about related to the New Testament.
My Lord. My Lord.
Okay?
Mercy.
All right. So Paul was about the same age of Jesus, but history tells us that Paul never knew Jesus.
Well,
Paul
amen.
was a practicing Jew.
Amen.
Okay, you know that there was a conflict between the Jews and the Christians. The Christians believed that Jesus was the expected Messiah. And many of the Jews said, no, he's just a troublemaker, a rabble-rouser. He's going to make these Romans mad, and we're going to suffer real consequences from that. So Paul persecuted the Jews. Instead, Paul was very adamant in his persecution of the Jews, very zealous. Paul would go around pulling people out of their houses, turning them over to the Romans. And you know what the Romans was doing? Crucifixion. And one day on his way to Damascus, Paul had this conversion. He said that Paul saw Jesus, and he fell to the ground, and he became blind. But Jesus said, Paul, why you persecuting me? Now, I don't know about you, but at this point, I'm real suspicious. I kind of believe Paul probably got busted upside the head and he got blind then, and somebody tried to take care of him. And then he was probably saying, well, if I get my sight back, I won't persecute the Christians. But you can believe what you want to believe as it relates to this conversion. I'm very suspect.
Oh, yeah.
Paul.
Very
So Paul went out teaching and preaching, and then the disciples heard about Paul preaching, and they said, well, he's not teaching what we're teaching about the Jewish faith. So we're going to call Paul to the table to see what's going on. I found this little image right here. I thought this was a good image of Paul getting with the disciples, and they're dealing with him right here. They're dealing with Paul. But the final hour, they tell Paul, look, you cannot go preaching this stuff among black folks. And so, but if you want to go and preach among who? The Gentiles? Right. They said, well, go ahead. Because Paul was a very literate person. And once he started preaching among the Gentiles, he found some white folks who were able to make some donations. So he made sure that when he came to the meeting with the disciples, he brought some what with him? Some money. He said, well, when the white folk gave me this, he said, well, okay, well, you go ahead and preach to the white folk, but you can't preach to the black folks right here. But most of the New Testament comes from Paul's writing. Well, this map right here shows you the journeys that Paul went on his missionary obligation.
Well,
and so you see nowhere did Paul go into what? Africa. He went all among the Gentiles preaching and teaching. Now that brought him into conflict because there were certain obligations that you had to fulfill in order to become a Jew. One of them, of course, was what? You had to be circumcised. So here you got white men saying, okay, I can relate to the morality of this belief system. And so definitely as it relates to the barbarism that we mostly associated with. So you had a lot of conversion going on. People, well, why you doing this to these people? These people are really nice and good people. We want to practice the faith. But this circumcision, I don't know, you know. Oftentimes you get your child circumcised when they're very young. But to then take a grown man and say, well, okay, you got to be circumcised. And they're like, hold up. And then also, it was the dietary. The Jews didn't eat pork and everything like that. The Romans ate anything they could kill. And so well, we don't know about your dietary habits. So Paul had to come up with a perspective of Christianity that was palatable to the white folks.
Well,
And but even with that, as he began to teach among white folks, he found some conflict with that and the basic teachings of Rome. And so even as white folks and others were accepting Christianity as a belief system, it upset the Roman Empire. And so they called Paul a couple of times to Rome to say, look, you got to stop this teaching that you're doing. It's upsetting Roman politics. And ultimately, Paul, as you can see, was decapitated in Rome. That's right. But then when we look at the history of even the disciples in this time period, we found that all of them met some suspicious demise. We said that James the Great was stabbed with a sword. And then the other, Jude, was filled with arrows. Philip was crucified by a soldier, and then Thomas was thrust with a spear. Matthews was crucified. James the Lesser was found stoned to death. Peter was crucified.
upside down.
Upside down, he was crucified. He said he didn't want to be crucified the same way as Jesus, so they crucified him upside down. They said John was the only one that lived a natural death. He was sent to the island and as being sent out of the country, but the history said that he probably lived until he died, but he was exiled. Of course, Paul had been beheaded. Then Simon was stabbed with a sword, and Bartholomew was crucified. So being a disciple was a very dangerous form of worship. These Romans were not playing. They were not playing at all with some of the most savage barbarians on the planet. When we move up to the 60 AD, you had Jewish war. Wherever you have oppression, it's going to breed resistance. So you had a group called the Zealots. And the Zealots was, they were very adamant about, let's deal with these Romans straight up. We don't want to waste no time. Let's deal with war. And so they led a rebellion and were able to defeat a small group of Romans and kick them out of Jerusalem. 4 years later, however, the Romans came back with big legions and everything, and they was killing everybody. They destroyed the city, killed thousands of Jews, and destroyed the Second Temple. Some of the Romans like this one. This was Nero, hated Christians, and he used Christians as a example for everything that went wrong in the Roman Empire. He blamed it on the Christians. So they're meeting secretly and everything. They're plotting against Rome. They got this ritual that they do. They must be eating bodies and drinking wine. And so all of these rumors were going on around Rome about who these Christians actually were. And Nero was just one of many Roman emperors who were persecuted. What Nero would do at one of his little parties, he would wrap the Christians up like candles and then light them on fire to provide the light for his audience. And then he would take any Christians that he found, he would burn them at the stake. He would feed them to lions. He would cut off their heads, anything that you could think of. In one of his building projects, he wanted to redesign part of Rome and set many of the houses on fire that were made out of wood. And who did he blame that on? Blame it on the Christians. It's the Christians who did that. So he would arrest all of the Christians, kill as many as he could in the Colosseum for entertainment. It's like white people going to watch football or basketball games. They just go to the Colosseum to watch lions eat up the black folks and set them on fire, and while they had popcorn and soda. So this is what was going on. Eventually, the rebels, the Jewish rebels, would then take over one of Herod's remote palaces. Herod had built him a complex on this top of a mountain that was called Masada. Oh man, it was laid out. He had everything up there, baths and all kinds of stuff. That was one of his pleasure palaces. So a group of the rebel Jews took it over from the small legion of guards that was up there, and they used this as the final place for the battle against Rome. This is 70 AD. Rome actually built a wall around the whole mountain and tried to starve them out. And then they created a levy that would lead them up there, and eventually this is the actual end of the Jewish rebellion in terms of the rebels in 70 AD. Okay, so the persecution of Christians during this time was that was the order of the day. It's like in America hanging black people. It's a picnic, you go get your picnic basket, come on, we're gonna hang some black people right behind the church. Okay, so people think that was just going on this day. This is 2,000 years earlier. This was the same thing that was going on. Help you have a long view of what white folks you're dealing with. So these were many other of the Roman emperors, until we get down to this group of thugs called the Fabians. Now the Fabians, they were persecuting the Romans worse than anybody else. They were already notorious for the battles that they were fighting against the white Gauls in Western Europe. And so the Roman emperor brought them in to put down the rebellions that was happening in Jerusalem. And so you had these three Roman emperors who were part of the same family, and they came into in Jerusalem, and they just burned Jerusalem to the ground, left no stone unturned. And then they also were in a process of rewriting Jewish history. And one of the things that they collected after they burned down the temple was they collected the Jewish scrolls. And so they wanted to alter the scrolls, and they found this guy called Josephus. Josephus was a Jewish rebel, and he was fighting against the Romans. And when the Romans came in and had killed everybody else, he decided to switch sides. So he told Vespasian, he said, well, look, you are the Messiah that we have been talking about in our literature. And so Vespasian looked at him and said, oh, yeah? And so Josephus was talking. He didn't convert, nobody changed. He got so close to the Fabians that they brought him back to Rome, let him have an apartment in their villa, and he became known as Fabius Josephus. And so he is the one that is telling the historical story about the Jewish wars. He was writing what happened, And of course, he's doing all of this from a Roman perspective. So he's known from writing the wars of the Jews. He's telling the whole story about what happened. So here you can see already a complete transition of power from the hands of the black Hebrews and Jews to Romans, who are now taking over and rewriting the story, using folks who had actually sold out in order to do that. This is the youngest son of the Fabians, and he's definitely saw himself as God Almighty, and he put forth an edict that everybody had to worship him, and those who did not were burned at the stake, crucified, or whatever else, or ran out of town. And he said everybody but the Jews, because he was heavily dealing with the Jews anyway. Okay, and then here you had some other Romans who were persecuting the Christians, the Christians at this particular time. The destruction in 70 CE, then the Second Jewish Revolt, 132 to 135, and then this led to over 500,000 Jews being killed, 985 villages destroyed, and they left no stone unturned. Ran the Jews completely out of Jerusalem, brought in new people into the area, and planted salt in the ground so nothing would grow after that. Okay, this is also the same time period that you would have the church fathers. Many of these would be considered Africans, most of them born in North Africa during the same time period, but they are under the control of the Roman Empire. So they're always challenged about their writings, and many of them would be massacred as well based on their writings that did not favor the Romans. These are some of the images that come to us from the early fathers of Christianity in terms of the basic tenets of the faith. And so you see this all has an African influence in it, one way or the other. It began to catch on around the Mediterranean world of the Romans, but it had its origins down in Egypt, over in Carthage, and in Jerusalem. And then it began to spread throughout Rome, as people are doing today, leaving Africa, trying to get into Europe in order to get jobs. So the same thing was going on then. Black folks began to migrate into Rome, and thousands of them was there, but they were always persecuted. You know how we are, we get a little something, want to move and out there with white folks at. Next thing you know, you got a cross burning on your lungs. Okay, so this is just some of the other persecutions, and as Judah trembles under Rome is another resource you can have. This brings us down to the ecumenical councils at the time of Constantine. So Constantine said, okay, we got all of these religious beliefs. We got the Zealots, we got the Scaria, we got the Christians, we got the Jews. We need one, now that we are in control, we need one belief system. So he asked all of these bishops and popes to come together, and they're going to find out one belief system. Of course, many of them who were Africans were suspect because they had been persecuted by Constantine. Now Constantine invited you to a meeting and everything, you know? So they came together, and they were talking about the character of Jesus. And so from this period, you have a period of about 500 years of ecumenical councils. And this is where white folks are meeting, deciding what's going to be in the Bible, what's going to be the Christian faith. This is a time period where they are writing you out of the Bible and writing themselves into the Bible. Okay? All right, so eventually they get down to where now under Constantine they began to accept. Here's another one having one of those conversions on the battlefield, according to the Bible. He saw the image of a cross in the sky and said, okay, I will conquer this as well. And his mother had been influenced by Christianity. And she was telling Constantine, look, you need to stop killing them Christians, the Christian faith is all right. So what he decided to do, as you know what white folks do, they decided to take Christianity over. And so then he put forth an edict, okay, stop killing the Christians, and then later on they said, okay, Christianity is now an official religion in the Roman Empire. Okay, so you've got to be very suspicious about that. And then as up until about 500 AD, you can see that Christianity is spreading throughout Rome, and of course, this is a new Christianity that has been transformed and reformed by white folks, writing you out, moving from the Old Testament into the New Testament. That's where then you get the foundation for the Gospels that we'll go into a little deeper on the next class on next Sunday. We'll talk a little bit more about Mark and Matthew and Luke and John. But history basically said that we really don't know who wrote these Gospels. Even in the first Bibles as they were written, you would see something like this: the Gospel according to Matthew, okay? Or the Gospel according to Mark, okay? So they're just putting names on these Gospels, but these are basically written from, what, about 40 to 100 years after the death of Christ. Okay, after the death of all of the disciples, after the dispersion of the Jews. Now somebody who is sitting down writing all these Gospels trying to tell a story from a Roman cultural perspective. When you look at the letters of Paul, these are letters that he was writing to white communities that he was trying to teach Christianity. So now you move into the New Testament and you get Romans, you get Galatians, you get Ephesians. These are all Roman ideas and concepts of community. So it helps you to understand there's a major transition going on here. Then, Joe, you end up with this whole new host of New Testament books. Councils that continue even to this day. They're still coming up with new versions. Moving from the Old Testament writings all the way up to modern times. Now you got version after version after version. So you have moved from the black Messiah to now a white Jesus. From black disciples to white disciples. From black folks teaching the Bible to white folks teaching the Bible.
My Lord.
You know the rest of the story.